Right, Happy New Year to everybody. Again, today's the last day for 2 weeks, 15th full day. So today we study the closing part of chapter on feelings, Vedanā. Always remember the word Vedanā is a very special term. It's not just feeling as we understand in English, but it's got to do with what we normally understand as knowing, right? Because the Vedanā comes from the word with. And knowing has a very broad meaning. Okay? So here it is knowing through our senses and how we react to it. One of the great difficulties that translators face, scholars face, especially scholars of Buddhist texts, is how to find the exact terms for the various Pali terminology or Sanskrit terminology. So this is where the term is not really as big as we make it. In fact, all problems are man-made, if you like, human-made, scholar-made. Without problems, there will be no scholars. So, in a way, scholars are very happy with problems. But the point is, I don't see any problem in the terminology. The important thing is, whenever you use a word to translate a Pali term, or for that matter, you use any word in your Buddhist talks, or talking about Buddhism, is to define it. Make sure you tell people this is what I mean by Buddha, this is what I mean by Bodhisattva. So one principle I follow is, I look around to see if there are already simple, universal English words available, which people are familiar with and which come from the Buddhist vocabulary. These are sometimes called borrowed words. And there are lots of them in the English dictionary, the big dictionary that is, Oxford Dictionary, Merriam-Webster Dictionary. So you have words like Buddha. You don't have to translate Buddha, because the word Buddha is unique to the Buddhists. So translating it will not be very helpful, except when you have to explain the meaning. Now once in a public talk I said Buddha means awakened one. And people have this idea, whenever they hear the word Buddha, they have this understanding. This is very important. And then you have words like Nirvana. Now rather than using Nibbana, I think using Nirvana has got a very important advantage, because people know the word is already in the dictionary. And if you do not use this word, the pubs and nightclubs and shopping centers are going to use it. One day you have Nirvana club, Nirvana bar. So you've got to start using it, explaining to people the meaning of it. So next time they see Nirvana bar, they think of Nirvana the way the Buddhists think, and they don't think of drinking and being drunk. So we've got to keep on using these words, which were in the Buddhist context in the first place. And there are many such words available. Right? Of course, you use the word Vedanā. In a sense, it's useful, but you can also translate it as feeling. So you might as well, it's better to use the word feeling. But feeling is so broad, so you have to define feeling. And the next lesson will be on sanya, which is a difficult term, very interesting study. There's a lot of discussion on what is the exact translation. Perception, a-perception, and so on. So there are different terms. Here again, I've settled for the word perception. And although it's not a perfect term, there are no perfect words anyway. We explain these terms. And once you say perception, you begin to understand it better. So words are signposts, and words are how we use them. And we define the words. Dictionary meaning only record the usages, the nuances, and so on. So we are the living dictionary, because in every 50 years or so, words change in meaning. So that you find the dictionaries also have to update these words. There's a special volume by the Oxford University Press, which is called a Dictionary of New Words. In fact, every few years, even OED itself, the Oxford Dictionary would look around and scout for new words to be added into the dictionary. So there you are. We are the ones who define words. Of course, it doesn't mean you can simply use whenever you like. You can define words whenever you like. The meaning must be meaningful, useful, and consistent. And helpful, of course. Yeah? So these are some of the things we need to bear in mind. So when we talk about feeling, we're talking about how we know the world through our senses and how we react or respond to this experience. Whether we like it, we don't like it, or we don't care about it. And I've already explained earlier on, how do we do this? It depends on how we relate to the past. But the past is important to us. Without the past, without memory of the past, we won't be able to live in the present, so to speak. I won't be able to communicate with you if I don't remember the things I've learned, the alphabets, the Dharma, the suttas. I have to connect all that. Now that's fine in terms of learning. But if we live in the past, in other words, we imagine whatever is in the past is a fixed idea, and that's the only truth. And whatever we see in the present, we connect with the past, then we have no present. All we're doing is just pulling the past, forcing them into the present. Let me give you a very simple example. Let's say you know somebody, especially someone close to you, very close to you. If you remember something bad this person does, again, who defines bad? You define it, you know. And all these are very subjective and impermanent definitions. It's very important to remember that. So we're happy with this loved one, and we keep thinking about it. We keep thinking about it, it's going to be disaster. We end up with divorces and strife and so on. So this is living in the past. So that's why in Buddhism we talk about letting go. Of course, letting go is another big word. You know? Letting go of what? Letting go of defilements, again, is another very big word. If you let go of defilements, you're an arhat already, you know? And I don't think any of us are at this point capable of that high level yet. However, there is a simpler daily meaning to letting go of the past. Here again, it is not something comes from me, it's not an idea, it's already found in the Paticcarata Sutta. This whole set of half a dozen suttas, they all have the title Paticcarata Sutta. Paticcarata means one night of good solitary meditation. Talk about the Buddha, Ananda, and a few other monks. This sutta has one famous verse. Let go of the past, let go of the future, live in the present. So this is very important in human relationship, living in the present. So understanding that we need the past in terms of knowing, we also need the present in terms of understanding. So in a sense, we can define the past as knowledge, the present as experience, the future as expectation. So there are many ways of looking at time in terms of Buddhism. I've spoken to you many times before on the grammar of spirituality, who, what, where, how, and so on, right? So now you have in terms of time. You can also look at Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist experience in terms of time. In other words, knowledge alone is not enough. We can know a lot of things, but then we need experience. Experience is what? Hands-on, right now, something's going on here. How do I apply this knowing, this knowledge? And knowing how to apply this knowledge is wisdom. So in a sense, you can say the future should be wisdom. In other words, we more or less know what to do when this situation arises again. So these are different ways we can reflect on the nature of self-awakening. So that far we have covered in the last few talks. You notice we have rearranged the hall a bit so that the sound can be taken more clearly. In the past we were facing the main road and the traffic was a bit noisy and you can't hear me so clearly. So we call it noise. Noise can come in different ways. The worst noise is lack of attention. We get distracted and so on, right? So this ability to focus is where you get all this knowledge coming in. And when you understand this knowledge, it becomes wisdom. So the question now is we can ask, Normal human beings have feelings, yes, and we suffer on account of feelings. What about the Buddha and the arhats? Do they have feelings? And this is something I'm very happy to discover in the Sutta. The Suttas speak for themselves. The number of Suttas, you find all the Suttas in this essay. That is SD 17.4. Yeah, behind me. So, the Buddha was born a human being. He has a body, he has a mind. As such, it is logical that he has feelings. But here you find very often the Buddha will ask this kind of question where two aspects of people are mentioned, and then the Buddha asks, what does it mean for each? For example, in this case, the Buddha will ask the monks, say, monks, the normal, untutored worldling also feels. The wise, noble disciples also feel. So what's the difference? Of course, this must be, the audience are all young monks, because the Sutta continues and say, the monks reply, oh, whatever sir, we are your students, you are our teacher, we take refuge in you, so whatever you tell us, we all remember. There's a long Indian way of saying, I don't know. Please tell me. And the Buddha will say, okay, listen well, I will speak. So there's this announcement, message coming through. So all these are very clear signals on how the Dharma should be transmitted. And this is very important to us. Without the Dharma, there's no Buddhism. The Suttas speak with one voice. The Dharma speaks with one voice, the voice of freedom. Freedom of body, freedom of mind. Freedom of body through keeping the precepts. Karma is good. Freedom of mind, meaning your mind is calm, peaceful, you're happy. Healthy mind and healthy body, you are the perfect person. You can help others that way. Just by your lessons, by what you say, you can help people. You bring happiness to others. This is really wonderful. This is the true Buddhist. But once you get out of that environment, you find there are Buddhisms. Many teachers, but they all seem to contradict each other sometimes. Because they are speaking to their times, to their context, to their various environments. So sooner or later, we've got to go back to the Suttas. So for me, it's a logical return to the source, if you like, after 30, 40 years of studying Buddhism, different kinds of Buddhism. Wow, there's really a lot of stuff that has come out after the Buddha has passed away. It's good. It is enough to study the early Buddhism. So in early Buddhism, we talk so clearly about what the mind is. We talk so clearly about feelings. Right? So, for example, it's very clear. The Sutta says the Buddha feels, arhats feel. So this context is very important. We can't talk about Bodhisattvas in the Mahayana sense or the cosmic Buddhas in the Mahayana sense. Then all these things don't apply. Because those are mythical figures. They are not real figures. They are ideas that make Buddhism a religion. Of course, they're used. They're important to certain people. And they're meaningful to certain people. So that's fine. So they've got to be studied in those contexts. But you want to understand the nature of how your mind works. You want to understand how to be happy. Using this kind of teaching, you have to make sure you follow the right vocabulary. Otherwise, you end up nowhere. So this is called learning. You must have the context in terms of learning. It's just like learning a language. You try to use so many languages at one time. It's very hard to learn, right? You use so many operating systems in one computer. You still have to only use one at a time. So there's many forms of Buddhism that are like operating systems. You have to choose one. So I've chosen, what shall we say? ES, early Suttas. Okay? So it's up to you what system you want to use. So in the early Suttas, it is said that Buddha does have feeling. For example, the Buddha gets headache, he feels sick. He often tells the monks, Ananda, he tells Sariputta, he tells Moggallana, I'm tired, I want to lie down. He continues the teaching. And then in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, he says, I am 80 years old now, I left home when I was 28, and now my body is like an old cart falling apart, like an old cart being strapped together with metal strips. I won't be able to rise above feelings of pain when I go into deep meditation. This is a paraphrase, simplified version of the Buddha saying. So here what the Buddha is saying is that the body feels pain, but not his mind. What does this mean? This is the answer to the sutta, where the Buddha asked the monk, the worldly person feels pain, the saints also feel pain or feel feelings, have feelings. What's the difference? The worldly person feels bodily pain, mental pain also. In other words, when the body is painful, the mind also suffers. You know, for example, when I went for my eye checkup in the hospital, I see some poor old man complaining, talking very roughly with the nurses, with their sons. I say, why must I do this? Why must I do that? You know, actually, they are not angry. You know, old people always show this kind of roughness is because they are afraid, they fear. They do not know what's going to happen. They just feel they should not say it. Go on by an old guy talking to a young guy, you know. So they just kind of, it's a desperate kind of reaction. I know that because I'm getting old myself. Well, what's amazing is you see this young son there attending to the father, comforting him, and that's really very wonderful to see that there are still such people in a crowded place like Singapore. So this is where this old man, or old woman for that matter, they are still whirling, unawakened, so they have this feeling of pain, of fear of losing the eyesight. It's a bodily pain, but their minds are also troubled. But there are others also who are very calm, very peaceful, who are not troubled by it. But for me, I kind of enjoyed the operation myself. I'm curious, wow, what's the doctor doing? And I was kind of awake when they're doing it. So I wondered they're taking out my eye and something like that. And all that I felt was something like a pinprick. And then within like 20 minutes, everything was over. It's amazing how this medical technology has advanced. So the idea is, as the Buddha told the elderly Piya Tan, although my body is in pain, my mind will not be in pain, my mind will not suffer. Right? So we have a choice where suffering is concerned. Leave the pain in the body. Do not follow, do not build the pain in the mind. Here also you apply the idea of time. Pain in the body are all in the past. The moment the pain arises, it goes away. It arises, it goes away. So when we follow this pain, we say, wow, very painful. You are prolonging the pain by making a mental image of it, by thinking about it. So that's why we continue to suffer. Body suffers, mind also suffer. But the mental suffering is not real. It's just a picture, an imagined idea. And we suffer on account of it. And most of our sufferings are like that. It's an amazing thing, you know. And people say why they're suffering. And when you tell them, they're not listening. Right? So that's why attention to the dharma is very important, because the solutions are all there telling us. So this is where, that's what the Buddha says, vinyuhi, you know, something that we must be wise, there is some level of wisdom. If you have that, that's wonderful. Some level of learning. Learning is helpful. Learning comes from attention. Right? So this is where feeling can be understood. Bodily feeling, you can't help it, it's physical. Mental feeling, you can take charge. That's the difference. Right? So the details are here on page 82 onwards. Page 83. Now we're going to a bit more detail. Feeling and suffering. Let's look a bit more on how we, as normal people, so to speak, experience feeling and pain. By the way, the word normal means keeping to the norm. That's the way things are. Okay? That's the first noble truth. That's the worldly norm. Then you have the higher norm. That's the higher Dharma, awakening. So sometimes some scholars have tried to translate Dharma as norm. Okay? But I think it's too philosophical a word, it's not very helpful. Not many people know the meaning of norm anyway, they think it's a friend next door. Norman or something, right? So it's best to leave the word Dharma as Dharma and then explain the meaning. So as you sit in a class like this, you read the suttas, you listen to Dharma talks, and reflect, this word Dharma is like a tabula rasa, it's like an empty page. And slowly you fill it up with wisdom. Or rather, these are like pieces of jigsaw puzzle. You keep getting the missing pieces. At first you put them wrongly and slowly they begin to fit in. This is very wonderful when that happens. And in fact, this is what's happening to me over these years. As I study the sutta, translate, the joy is to see these pieces fitting together. And when pieces fit together, you feel so happy, sense of accomplishment. And the next thing is you want to show others, say, hey, can you see this picture? Something like that, yeah. So here we are, looking at the pictures. So when we talk about feeling, in a worldly sense, we're also talking about suffering. A lot of people don't like the word suffering, dukkha. So you can translate as unsatisfactoriness. You can also look at as a lack, if you like. Suffering is not really that bad, if you understand it. Suffering is telling us that some kind of correction is needed, some kind of effort is needed. The work is not finished. That's why we're looking at it. For example, we would not scold a child who's just born and say, how stupid you are. The child is just born, it's not done anything. Right? So when the child is born, the child cries, obviously the child is suffering. So ignorance is the cause of suffering. And then through ignorance there's craving, so it goes like that. So we can talk of suffering in three ways. Here you are on page 83. Some scholars have come up with some helpful words, modern terms. Let's look at the Pali terms first. This is from the Samyutta Nikaya, Dukkha Sutta, S38, Sutta 14, 38.14. Three kinds of suffering. Dukkha dukkha, Viparinama dukkha, Sankhara dukkha. Okay. Since we have a bit of space on the board, let me just write down for our viewers on the camera. The more you study the suttas, the more you will see that the Buddha is very clear in his teachings. And things begin to fit. For example, the three kinds of suffering. Dukkha dukkha, the suffering of suffering. This is physical suffering. Or, properly speaking, there's no such thing as physical suffering. You need a mind. Physical and mental. Okay? We'll talk more about this a little later. So in modern terminology, we can call this affective suffering. Affective. Something to do with how we feel things. So this is dukkha dukkha, the suffering of suffering. The second one, viparinama dukkha, suffering due to change. Change means what? The ending of the pleasant feeling due to impermanence. Temporal change, temporal suffering. Yeah? Temporal means having to do with time. It's the nature of time, nature of life. To exist is to suffer. That is why it is very difficult to define who is the Buddha. In a sense, the Buddha does not exist in time because he's attained nirvana beyond time. So it's very difficult to talk about this kind of concept. So this is where when you study the very deep level of philosophy, of language, of science, you come to the frontiers of knowledge, where words as we understand them do not seem to apply anymore. Today's Sunday papers that cartoon about this group of funny people in outer space. You know, their special is called "Are You Serious?" You know, the cartoon, I forgot the name. There's a very interesting cartoon today. This person was saying, this crazy doctor in the spaceship was saying, you cannot, some are saying look up or look up there. It says there's no up or down in space. There's no up or down in space because wherever you are, that's a location. And that's very true. If you really look at the universe, there's no up or down. North, east, south, west is based on the geomagnetism of the earth. That is why in our loving kindness meditation, in the closing we say, all the beings in the front directions, right-hand directions, behind, left, below, above, directions in between, all around. So we imagine ourselves right in the center of the universe, and we send out this light of loving kindness. So there's no up, no down in outer space. It's just a conceptual thing. No absolute position or direction. So when you talk about the Buddha, it's something like that. The awakened mind, nirvana. That's all possible to talk about within the limits of language. So anyway, that's time. We're talking about time there. Be careful, we get lost in time. Now then number 3, okay, this is the important one. The first two, physical pain, dukkha, you don't need Buddhism for that. I mean, the moment you fall down, you hit yourself, you don't have to run to the temple to pray. You get up with a plaster or just give it a good rub and you're okay. You don't need Buddhism for that. Not really. Then the impermanence, you can find a girlfriend, you can get a good job, or you're happy with your job, you don't really need Buddhism. Although many of us do kind of counseling and so on, which is helpful, yeah, but you don't really need it. Because if you really know Buddhism well, you know what to do. But this has nothing to do with awakening, nothing to do with being free from suffering. In fact, you're getting more suffering. So this is where you come to the third one. This is the one that the Buddha is concerned with. This is, in a sense, the reason that the Buddhas arise in the world. To help us clear this third kind of suffering, which is called sankhara dukkha. Sankhara is another term we'll be studying later on in the few more lessons. Sankhara is even more fascinating. We'll be studying sanya next and then sankhara. Sankhara formations, we form these ideas in our minds. And we live in this world, self-created world. So we have to understand what this world has created. So this is called the conditioned existence. That's suffering which is inherent in conditioned existence, or technically suffering due to formations. Sankhara dukkha. Sankhara is a very broad meaning. Just a quick comment. Whatever exists in this universe, everything, ideas, things, events, they're all sankharas. In the plural. Nirvana is outside this definition. So this is, the scholars call this existential suffering. In other words, no matter how successful we may be in this world, we will always find something missing. We always find fault with something. We're never satisfied. We're never really happy until we let go of everything. Yeah? So that's another matter, of course. So these are three kinds of suffering here, and then these are all expounded detailed in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. All listed there, which we have done a few times before. So let's just have a quick look, page 84, on the definition of the first noble truth given in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. Now this pictures is the noble truth that is suffering. Notice the phrasing, the noble truth that is suffering. Not the noble truth of suffering. In other words, we're talking about this suffering is going on. This is a real truth that the wise, the noble ones will understand. Birth is suffering. You see a mother giving birth, she will tell you. It's very painful. And she also will tell you, if she's a good mother, the child is worth the pain. But it's still painful. Decay is suffering, right? Getting old, very difficult. Disease is suffering. Notice the word disease. It's made up of two words. Dis plus ease. In Old English, disease simply means lack of ease. And over time, over the centuries, we keep saying disease, 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 it means real bad sickness. No? So here again, you begin to see how a word which is opposite of ease took on more baggage. Right? So what's changed in meaning over generations? So we've got to keep up with this. So the dictionary doesn't always define all the words we want to use. And these are the problems such as when I translate. So the meaning in my mind, meanings looking for words. I have to look around for that word, and sometimes on some rare occasions I have to invent that word. Death is suffering. Of course you might say, if I were to die, that's the end for me after that, right? Not so, because we'll be reborn, for one thing. And death also suffering because people who love us will miss us. Death is painful also because we will lose people we love, things we love. Our work will remain incomplete and so on. Okay, so we have decay, birth, decay, disease, death. These are regarded as dukkha, physical pain. Then grief, lamentation, physical pain, mental pain, and despair, suffering. This is a bit more mental, if you like. It's the second kind of suffering, due to change. To be with the unpleasant is suffering, right? Something you don't like and you're caught up with it. Company we don't enjoy. To be without the pleasant is suffering. Something you're used to and you're deprived of it. Here again is very interesting. What we hold on to the most is what is going to cause us suffering. So like for me, I have to do this very deep reflection. My greatest love, of course, is translating the suttas, teaching Dharma, talking to you. And the worst thing anyone can do to me to hurt me is to prevent me from teaching. Or worse, prevent me from translating. Well, this happens in the past, during the 16th century, 16th, 17th century. The time when the Christian Bible was still in Latin. Sometimes people would just, just try to translate the Bible into English. And they had their heads chopped off because of that. They became burned at the stakes because of that. And in Buddhism, the Buddha keeps telling us we must learn the Dharma in our own language. So fortunately, we don't have that kind of problem. But the problem is how to communicate the suttas to the people. The suttas can be quite deep sometimes. So this is where you need people like you who have some level of intelligence, have time, inclination, and you're able to understand the suttas. So your task will be to understand as much as possible with all these blessings we have, and then simplify it just enough to inspire them. Say, wow, the suttas are really helpful. If you keep saying the suttas are deep, they're not very helpful. I mean, it's a way of excusing yourself, not studying the suttas. You understand the suttas and think of a way, how can I simplify this idea? How can I tell this idea by a story, for example? And a lot of us can do that. I can do that too, but I feel that my time is better spent if I were to translate the suttas as clearly as I can. And this is my life work, and it makes me profoundly happy because of this. So this is where I tell myself, okay, I don't think anybody can stop me from translating the sutta except sickness, lack of time maybe, or maybe family problems or some kind of problem. But I have to remind myself, I say, okay, whether I'm able to teach people or not doesn't matter. For example, I've been teaching all over the place. Frankly, to tell you, it's very tiring. Traveling is a difficult part for me. Teaching is fun, but to travel, it's tiring. It's difficult for me, changing buses and so on, and with my age and eyesight getting worse. So, if I have a class, I'm very happy. I teach. And someone says, okay, no more class, I wasn't happy. I have time, I can go back to my work. So either way, you're happy. Now you can feel that way yourself, or you've got to try to feel that way. Okay? So this is where be very careful. The very thing that you enjoy is going to bring you suffering. So you've got to tell yourself, even if I lose this thing that makes me joyful, I must understand that that's the way the world works. And I won't be unhappy about it. Of course, you can refer on the fact that you understand, you have this wisdom through you have the joy. I think the word joy is best here. The joy of having translated the sutta, the joy of having played music, the joy of having done some kind of work that you love to do. And you recall that, you have that joy. You feel peaceful. No one can take it away from you. And even impermanence can take it away from you, so to speak. So this is a reflection of impermanence. Now the last one is sankhara. In short means everything is covered. All the previous statements. The 5 aggregates of clinging are suffering. So this series of lessons we're doing actually is a detailed study on the First Noble Truth of the Buddha, the 5 aggregates. The 5 aggregates in themselves are suffering, unsatisfactory. It's simpler if we begin with a statement, the 5 aggregates are impermanent. What is impermanent is unsatisfactory. What is impermanent and unsatisfactory cannot have an abiding self. This is the basic idea of the 3 characteristics. So do read out this passage, reflect on it, right? And then see what happens. Here there is a short reading from the Dhamma Sutta on what should be seen as 36.5. Just read through this very short passage. It shows there are these 3 feelings. What are the 3? Pleasant feeling, painful feeling, neither pleasant nor painful feeling, or simpler translation, neutral feeling. A pleasant feeling ritual should be seen as painful. Notice here. This is a very different instruction. Only after I've given you the first part, I can read the second part to you. Because it's really you pluck somebody from the street and say, hey, Buddha says, the pleasant feeling must be seen as painful. You look at you and say, are you crazy? So I'm enjoying my life, until that pleasant feeling is gone. That's the time you tell this person. Then it's already you're right. Okay? So, this is called the progressive teaching, the gradual teaching. What you say is not wrong, but the problem is, this first part is missing, So, it's like a jewel, it doesn't have the little place in the crown to hold it. So you need to prepare this person. So a pleasant feeling, which should be seen as painful. A painful feeling should be seen as a dart, arrow. A neutral feeling should be seen as impermanent. These actually are instructions for your meditation. When you meditate, pleasant feeling arises, you say, well, actually, the key meditation here is impermanent. When this pleasant feeling goes away, it is painful. So this is when you come up with meditation, you reflect it. Section 4. Bhikshus, so far as a man has seen a pleasant feeling as painful, a painful feeling as a guard, and a neutral feeling as impermanent, he is called a monk. Here the word monk refers to anyone who meditates. At the moment when you're meditating, you are de facto a monk, okay? Even without robes, and because that's what a monk is supposed to do. A monk is not what he wears, a monk is what he does. The only problem with that is the moment you come out of your meditation, you're no more a monk. Okay? So when your mind is that monk's mind, so to speak. This is what Buddha Gosha says in his commentary, in the Satipatthana Sutta. So the word bhikshu refers to the meditator. So anyone who meditates at that time, you're a monk. So you don't need to live the home, so to speak, to renounce the world. If you can't, you can still live happily as a lay person. Do your meditation mindfulness practice, you will still reach the goal of awakening. Of course, your inclination, you want to take a super highway to awakening, becoming a monk and a nun is a great way of doing so. So someone who is able to practice in this way, he is called a monk who sees rightly, who has cut off craving, who by fully breaking through conceit, destroying it, has made an end of suffering. Alright. Now, what I've said just now, actually are quite dangerous statements. I don't think I can say this in Thailand, for example. I don't know about Myanmar, Sri Lanka, I don't do that. If I speak it too widely and known for it, the Council of Elders will call me up. I won't be thrown with a lesson I just did, but I put myself into a lot of trouble. This is one of the problems throughout religious history that freelance speakers have to face. Interestingly also, it is these suffering individuals who actually change religion, that have brought on changes in all kinds of religion. And many of them lose their lives for it. Nowadays, of course, we don't lose our lives for it. We are made to live more miserably. That's what's the death. But then again, it's up to you to define your happiness. Nothing can take away the joy of the suttas and the dharma once you have tasted it. And we just want to share it more with people. So what I'm saying here is because Buddhism is always, the dharma is always challenged by outsiders, by non-Buddhists. It is challenged by people who themselves are Buddhists. Last week, our Wednesday class at the mining center, we have a Christian, a big cross on her chest, attending the class. And she was asking all kinds of interesting questions, They're so different from the Buddha. We were studying about the Buddha performing simple miracle. He was going to teach a monk, he's meditating. This monk, Sona Kolimisa, having from his meditation, the Sutta says that the Buddha disappeared from Jetavana just as a man stretching his arm, forward his arm and stretching his arm back, and appeared before Sona Kolimisa, talking to Dhamma. And this Christian woman got very surprised. Oh my goodness, I thought Buddha was a man, but he has all these godly powers. I'm not sure she's impressed or she's disappointed. And next week we'll find out if she comes again. So, a lot of people know very little about the Buddha. So we got to, in a sense, our duty to inform. And from there, some kind of dialogue, some kind of exchange will arise. And hopefully some understanding. We are more and more such open-minded non-Buddhists, learning Buddhism. So, in many ways, we have to present the Dharma in an open way. And we have to really think carefully, how do we present the Dharma? The stories must be understood as stories, the facts, the teachings of the mind must be understood as teachings of the mind. You must not confuse the two. Right? So, in other words, if you do not believe in the miraculous aspect of the Buddha's life, that's fine, it's no problem at all. But the teachings of feelings, impermanence, all those are very clear. Those are not stories. And then of course you have the Buddhists themselves. They are the greatest influences to Buddhism, especially when they have fixed ideas. only this teaching is right, only this sutta is right, only this teacher is right, wow, you're going to have a lot of trouble then. This is called fixation to ideas. Ideas are the greatest hindrances to meditation and to awakening. Because right view means no views. All views are supports for us to get on with our life, to rise above ideas. One idea helping us to arise above another idea and letting go of the previous idea. That's what we've been doing as evolving adults. When we were young, we were playing with toys and we thought, wow, this is wonderful. And as we grow older, we say, I don't want these toys anymore. And now we've got new toys, handphones and so on. And slowly we say, oh, I got enough of this. And you begin to evolve that way. And we got to accept this. Many people think that right now, this is the right thing. And after that, 1 year later, oh no, this is the right thing. And it goes on like that endlessly. So why can't we accept that? Right now, whatever I know is provisional. Whatever I know is just a step that helps me to go nearer awakening. And this is called religious tolerance. This is not political Buddhism. This is not power Buddhism. Right? If you have that, then you have nothing to fear. Then there's this beautiful verse here. One who has seen the pleasant as painful, who has seen the painful as a dart, the neither painful nor pleasant as peaceful. Notice this is different from the sutta. This is peaceful. Different in the sense here, if you reflect as impermanent, you feel peaceful. So they don't contradict each other, they complement each other. He who sees it as impermanent, he is a monk who rightly sees, who thoroughly knows feeling. He has fully understood feeling. He is without cankers or influxes in this very life, standing in the Dharma when the body breaks up. The master of knowledge cannot be reckoned. Knowledge here means knowledge of awakening. Cannot be reckoned. You cannot more define him. You cannot more limit him. You cannot hold him down. Right? You know, one thing about religion is, religion wants to hold us down, define us, control us. So that's why we must believe in a certain set of ideas in every religion. Or at least in the, you join a society, you have to follow the rules and so on. So here it's not that we break all the rules. It's just that we begin to understand things so clearly, you don't need to define yourself as anyone or anything. It's just like if you are truly a wise, resourceful and great scientist or thinker or doctor or teacher, you find that every country will want you. You become a citizen of the world. Something like that. Yeah? So like the Buddha, although he's Indian, we rarely think of him as being an Indian man. You know? We always regard him as a universal figure. And he has risen up from the ethnicity of India. In many ways, the Indians have rejected him because the Brahmins, they are afraid of losing their power and they're trying to get back. They attack the Buddha very subtly, very cunningly. Not many of us realize the Hindu classics such as the Bhagavad Gita was composed especially to debunk the Buddha. If you study the Bhagavad Gita carefully, you find they actually quote a lot of Buddhist scriptures, or should I say, misquote Buddhist scriptures. For example, they quote the 8 winds, like gain and loss, happiness, sorrow, They quote or misquote the doctrine of anatta. In fact, that's the most famous passage in Bhagavad Gita, where this warrior is going to war. So Arjuna, I think, and he's not sure. He said, "Well, killing is bad, Why should I go there and fight these people? They are my kinsmen, they're human beings, And then this God Krishna told him, "You got to do it, It's your duty." That's the Brahminical definition of dharma. Dharma means your duty. The Buddha rejected it long ago. So, no, dharma means the truth. So here you see the Bhagavad Gita specifically, subtly, cleverly, you might even say beautifully, attacking the Buddha, debunking. So there's one way, this is a very effective way of, sometimes confusing people. So people think, wow, this is a great scripture, the Son of God, Bhagavad Gita. Actually, it's a very unholy scripture, attacking the Buddhists, debunking the very heart of teaching of Buddhism, talking against nonsense, that killing is alright, it's our duty. You're a Kshatriya, you're a warrior, so the task is to kill people. Go ahead, do it. I don't think Buddhists can accept that.
So is this developed after the Buddha's time or before the Buddha's time?
This is after the Buddha's time. After the Buddha's time. Definitely after the Buddha's time. The Mahabharata is probably around the Buddha's time. So it's quoted in the Jataka stories. So this idea of time is very important in Buddhism. Sometimes the Indians, they mix up all the time. So they start thinking, Krishna came before the Buddha. Actually, Krishna came after the Buddha. Krishna is a sort of echo of the Greek god Hercules. In fact, Krishna is mentioned in the text as Kanha. But Kanha means dark, the dark one. And you know who the dark one is? Mara. So here, the Hindus, the Brahmins, twist this around. They use the Krishna for one of the most beloved gods. So there you see religious rivalry working against each other. And this is happening everywhere in religion. The Catholics are doing it too. They have taken a meditation now. Lenny tells me it's the Catholics who started meditation. So I said, look, here we are doing Buddhist meditation. This place we are renting from you. And we did it 2,500 years ago. You have to stand up and you tell you got to correct. It's normally right away because if you don't, you are complicit with it. So anyway, I tried to argue with her. I just said, Buddha is 2,500 years ago. And this monk called Santikaro was invited from the US to Devian Hall to teach meditation. We got to keep the record straight. That is why we got to record all these things on paper permanently for the posterity. This kind of record will be useful for future scholars when they want to document the history of religion. If there's no such record in the Buddhist forget the history, then one day our children will say, yeah, meditation was started by the Catholics or some other religion. Okay? So the Buddhists have to practice them, their practices, otherwise we'll lose them. We also will lose them to the scientists, by the way. The scientists will also attracted to meditation. Okay, so next part, page 85, feeling and content of feeling. Here, there's a bit of a problem about why do we feel pain, why do we suffer? So some teachers say everything is due to the past karma. So if you're going to suffer, you feel it's all past karma. Now this is a very dangerous teaching, I can tell you. If that's the case, I can go up to you and just give you a punch and say, that's your past karma. Right from down. Or I can, rob you and say, it's your past karma. So that we no more law and order. So we cannot say everything is fatal. Someone tried this with me once. Very interesting story. I should tell it because it's not been told before. When I was a monk, I had some friends, many friends who were non-Buddhist. One day was particularly evangelical. So he keeps coming to me to try to convert me. So he comes with all kinds of arguments, All of them I managed to answer. And finally he came to the last argument. After that, he did not come anymore. He told me, he says, okay, I think whatever you said before, you're right. You may be right. But wouldn't you agree with me that whatever happens in this world is God's will? I look at him and with a cheeky smile, I said, wow, this is great. I said, this is a great idea. Okay, supposing I accept your argumentation, everything is God's will. I can tell you, I'll give you a couple of sentences that after that you should stop coming to see me forever. I said, if you say everything is God's will and I agree with you, I am a monk, it's God's will. So please don't change that. Keep it that way, don't trouble me anymore. He looked for me, he was speechless for a while. It didn't work. I don't think that many people use this idea today anymore. Because it's very fatalistic. It means human effort is no use. Right or wrong, no such thing. Right? But Buddhism, no. When you walk, it says when you put your foot forward, isn't that conscious action? If you say everything is fated, you won't be doing that, you know. You can't move, right? So there is, in a sense, this action. Okay? Free will is another thing. I don't talk about free will, you will get lost of time. Yeah? So this is where you do have that conscious action, if you want, the will to change, the wanting to change, to be happy as possible. So this is where, okay, what about the pains we feel? You know, some teachers say, oh, you know, we suffer not because in the past we've done something wrong. So every little thing we suffer, we try to look for some explanation in the past. Not necessarily so. So this is where some teachers like Chandra, they have distinguished between feeling and the content of feeling. This is a bit of philosophy. This is where the scholars are helpful to us, philosophy, where you distinguish between feeling as a reality and the content of feeling. What's the difference? This is very important to understand. It's not that difficult, really. Let's say if I fall sick, is it because of past karma? Oh, of course, I'm sure anyone here knows very well. Not necessarily so. Not necessarily so. Perhaps you can say we don't know. That's a fair answer. You can even say it is not so. You're not wrong. Okay? Why? Because the sickness that I have got could be because I met someone who was sick like that and it was contagious. Present conditions. So you have past conditions, present conditions. Or you like past causes, present conditions. Nature, nurture. Both are there. If no nurture, there's no hope for us. You don't need the Buddha. The Buddha is meaningless to us. Nurture, we can change. Okay? So this is where there is this analogy of the TV set, which is used by Chen Brown somewhere there. Page 89. Look at page 89. The difference between feeling and content of feeling. Between the fact that we feel and what we feel, how we feel. Page 89. It should be pointed out that the Buddha is here referring to the type of feeling rather than to the feeling itself. It is true that whichever one of the three types of feeling that one experiences, happiness or suffering or neutral feeling, is not always due to karma from a past life. But it is also true that the situation whereby one can experience feeling at all, the fact that Vedanā exists is due to karma from a past life. Right? There you are. The fact that we can feel, our senses are working, past karma. Past karma gives us all this, our senses are complete. But how we feel is present condition. Okay, let me continue. A simile might make this clear. The situation that you possess a TV on a public holiday is due to you having purchased it in some previous day. Past karma. Its presence, as it were, is due to karma from a past day. But whichever one of the three channels that appears on the screen, channel happiness or channel suffering or channel neutral, is not always due to what you did on some previous day. The content is not all due to karma from the past. In the same way, the Buddha states that the existence of Vedanā, or feeling, in this life is due to karma formations done in the previous life. But the particular type of feeling, happiness or suffering or neutral feeling, is not always due to karma from a previous life. Once this distinction is made between Vedanā and the contents of Vedanā, happiness or suffering or neutral, it is clear that the Titayatana Sutta in this case doesn't state that Vedanā is not caused by karma formations from a previous life, It does not disprove the orthodox understanding of dependent origination as spanning 3 lives. Right, so here, the Acharya is trying to answer those people who talk about dependent arising as occurring only in 1 life, 1 moment. Yet the 3 life, past, present, future, actually is a better explanation. Okay? For our purposes, of course, we're talking about feelings. Right, so is this analogy clear to you? This, the TV and so on? Any questions? Yeah? So in other words, the fact that we can feel, we see something, we feel, we hear something, we feel, right? So we have all the senses working. These are past karma, good karma, because some people are born blind, deaf, and so on. But we have all this. But how we feel right now is present karma. What we choose to watch, what we choose to do, we can choose. Otherwise, no point keeping the precepts. Right? Okay?
Sorry.
Yeah.
So is loving kindness and compassion a top feeling?
Oh yes, very important here. Because it is, you see, without loving kindness, you can never fully practice the precepts. All the precepts are an expression of loving kindness, and they are supported by, inspired by loving kindness. Without loving kindness, you will kill. Without loving kindness, you will steal, commit adultery, lie, and get drunk. Right? So we have to build up this loving kindness. Then it's easier to keep the precepts. Loving kindness is also very powerful in limiting the effects of karma. Because if you constantly build up your loving kindness, you are less likely to commit bad karma. Yeah, be well and happy. May everyone be well and happy. Even those who hurt you, may they be well and happy. And we find that you are lesser, other people also lesser, we forgive each other. And whatever bad karma we have done will not ripen. And if they ripen, the fruit will stop in this life. And if you do this loving kindness to a deep level, especially jhana level, then you'll be reborn in the form plane, formless jhana levels. You know? So this is where the karma will end in this life itself. Those bad actions you have done here, so to speak, in that sense. Metta Sadhata Sutta, for example, says that. So that's how I fit in, yeah?
So do we classify that as a pleasant feeling?
Loving kindness.
Yeah.
Loving kindness,
Because the
yeah, in terms of feeling, yes. If you talk about in terms of feeling, yes.
Yeah.
But when you're meditating, loving kindness, you begin with this loving kindness, may I be well, may I be happy, you visualize nice places, and then you feel very joyful. That joy helps you to let go of the body completely. Then you attain jhana. Jhana is when you have happily, willingly, completely let go of the body. And you experience pure mind. In simple terms, that's jhana. So once you attain the level of jhana, we're not talking about feelings anymore. It's jhana. So you have another language there. When you come out of jhana, then you reflect, impermanent, So loving kindness is a feeling, yes. So you can also say this wonderful feeling I have now is wonderful as this, it's still impermanent. So even wonderful thing, even Sutta study, I say, oh, look at all this. You know, all these things are put together. They're also impermanent. One day if the universe gets destroyed, who will get destroyed? It's all gone. Yeah?
How distinguish the feeling and emotion?
Ah, yes. Okay, in fact, we've discussed it elsewhere, here and there. It's very important term, emotion. Even the specialists, the scientists today are not agreeing on this. So this is a Buddhist approach. Yeah? Feeling is very clear, how you react to a particular experience. You see something as pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. That's feeling, 3 times. Emotion, take it as sankhara. It's the easiest, the easy answer. Yeah? Anger, jealousy, all the bad negative emotions. We take those as, we use the word emotion. Right? So to that extent, we use the word emotion. But in psychology, it's very tricky. Depends
There's
how.
positive emotion.
Yeah, there's positive. So sometimes the 4 Brahma Viharas are translated as positive emotions. Why? Because they move you to action. Compassion Sometimes it's called kambaka. It moves you. And then it's the last one which must help you to be very calm and still, equanimity. No matter what, you have to be calm and still. You have done your best. So you cannot be shaken all the time by what you see in the world. That's the nature of the world. No matter what you do, that's the world. You cannot get rid of the world. But you can change other people's lives sometimes, but you must be at peace yourself. Then you are truly peaceful. Okay? I think this is why you have Mahayana, for example, there's this Bodhisattva Bhava. I will not enter Nirvana until all beings are awakened. I told myself, how are you going to do that? The whole world, it's impossible to awaken the whole world. So this is where you got to examine the words and the meaning. See, what do you mean by world? Right? It's actually a coded statement about meditation. Not many people know this. So if you only look at the word level, you say, wow, these Bodhisattvas are great, you politicize all these statements. And say, oh, I'm a Bodhisattva worshipper, and so I'm better than you, you're only arhat worshipper. And so it's not like that. The word here refers to your senses, the 5 senses. Sabha Sutta. Remember Sabha Sutta? What is the all? The all are your eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. 6 internal senses, 6 external senses, and your respective consciousnesses. That's our world. Wow, it's an amazing sutta. It's just a short sutta, hardly half a A4 page. If you talk about the world, it's the world of forms, shapes, and colors that see. Our world is the world of sound, smell, taste, touch, ideas. That's what our world is. And the Buddha says, if you try to define the world as anything more than that, you could have a lot of problems. So, I will not awaken until the world is awakened. What does it mean? I'm going to control my senses and to let go of them. I need to renounce them. And I have peace in myself, and attain jhana, let go of jhana, and practice impermanence, attain nirvana. That's my interpretation. Okay, I'm sure there are other interpretations. We don't have to burn each other for differences.
Those Manakatsa Bodhicitta, did the early Sutta talk about the Bodhicitta?
Bodhicitta, the idea is to inspire people to action. Okay? But like all ideas, they can be wrongly used. Because bodhicitta, the big argument is this, whether it's inherent or not. Again, very difficult to talk about such things. But we can, in simple terms, say that it is possible for all beings to awaken. That's the understanding of bodhicitta, the awakening mind. And what awakens is the mind, not the body. That's another idea. To that extent, fine. So you find the Chinese philosophers have a very difficult time. The idea that there is this Buddha seed inside us, the use of Buddha seed, for example. Everyone can be Buddhas. Again, it's not wrong to say that, but it's not exactly sutta-based. The Buddha didn't say such a thing. In fact, we find in the Buddha's time, there's only one Buddha. The others become arhats, for example. But it's based on a very real idea that every one of us, without exception, can awaken. But this without exception is a problem. But later on, the Mahayana came up with this idea of iccantika. Iccantika means there's no hope for you in this life. Again, they're not wrong, because those who have killed father, mother, killed arhat, bled the Buddha, and broken the Sangha, divided the Sangha, they will never have a chance in this life. So the point is quite easy. You can't say forever. You cannot say you are forever. You will never have to do that. Doesn't work. So in that sense, the Chantika doesn't make sense. Okay? In this life, yeah, in this life, because this person has created this deadly karma, he will never be awakened in this life. But that doesn't mean he won't awaken in future lives. So you find in the sutta where all those people who did the worst of the Buddha, Devadatta, for example. Even Devadatta, the Buddha didn't consign him to hell. There was no such thing. In fact, the Buddha said in the distant future there will be a Pachika Buddha. So there's hope for everyone in that sense. It's just at the present moment this person has done such negative karma, it's quite difficult for him to progress. Yeah?
What about the exact definition of neutral feeling?
Oh, okay. Alright, yeah, this is a very useful question. Let's say you're meditating, okay, or even in daily life, you see something nice, you look at this object, you say, oh, you feel happy because it brings back memories. Remember memories, because your understanding of this bottle related to some bottles in the past. Maybe someone gave you a nice drink, and then you say, oh yes, had a nice drink before. Conversation piece, you tell a friend, oh, very nice, right? So happy feeling. Then unpleasant feeling, maybe you see something and say, oh, I don't like this, someone hit me with this, or I lost this, it's so precious to me, then bad memories come. So we have this database in the past, and then we define the present. Painful, pleasant. Suppose we never experienced this thing before, like those Kalahari, what do you call these people? Bushmen. You never see the Coca-Cola bottle. You don't know what it is. So imagine, especially beginners in meditation, they have not experienced deep stillness. They have not experienced when the breath became so subtle they almost don't feel it. They panic, They get afraid. Actually, it's a wonderful thing. It's so peaceful, neutral feeling, neither pleasant nor painful. But they have not experienced it before. They do not know it's neutral feeling, and they were terrified by it, for example. So all they need to do is, at that moment, since they're still thinking each other at the time, but they were aware of the fact, after the fact, they can say it is neutral feeling, it's permanent, I'm letting it go, and they'll be all right. So neutral feeling is when you have no way of identifying it as pleasant or unpleasant. And usually this is after the fact. During the review period, when you come up meditation, you sit down and you reflect, say, oh, just now I felt neither pleasant nor painful. That's neutral feeling. Sometimes immediately after that, it happens, and then you are conscious in a normal way, and then you reflect back. So this is neutral feeling.
So can I say, you say indifferent?
Oh, indifferent is different. You have spiritual equanimity and worldly equanimity. I don't care attitude. That is indifference, nonchalance. Okay? That one is negative. This one is different. If you are not aware of it, it's negative. And you're aware of it, you're terrified, also negative. You're aware of it, you say impermanent, positive. So this question impermanent is a safety device. Everything impermanent and you're safe. And this is the twin practice. Loving kindness, perception of impermanence. These two keep us safe. Okay? Yeah.
There's a vow by all bodhisattvas that they will remain until all sentient beings become. So, do we interpret that in the same way that you just said?
Well, I don't know about other teachers. I take it as a very mythical statement, a grand statement, a story way of talking about meditation. Right? So I will not enter nirvana until all beings are safe. So here, what we were saying is a bodhisattva will never enter nirvana. He will always there helping the world. That's one way, which is a great idea because people need help. On the deeper level, beyond language, you can say each of us is the bodhisattva, and this all beings, or the all, are our senses, as I mentioned earlier. So if you understand that you have to rise above this all the six senses to be awakened, then you do it yourself. You are the bodhisattva. Every one of us is that bodhisattva. So two ways of talking.
Yeah, because literally it's impossible for all sentient beings to.
Yeah, very nice to say. Yeah, this is one thing about religious people. They like to say grand things, and you say, wow, and they don't understand it better still. If they understand it,
draw this parallel to like loving kindness meditation, because when we do loving kindness, they say make all beings be well and happy. So it's something to meditate on.
Okay, yes, that's an interesting point. Very good. You raise it. Okay, this is, remember, when you do loving kindness, you are the subject. You are clearing your mind of those negative concepts. Yes, your loving kindness will affect the world out there if it is very strong, like the Buddha, but maybe not yet. It doesn't matter. At least we want to clear our mind, at least during the meditation for a few minutes. It's possible. All beings, as far as I can see them, comprehend them, be well and happy. So you're aware of a potential, you're aware of that ability you have, you can send loving kindness to all these things. And you are conscious of the whole universe. For all you know, no matter how far you can visualize the universe, it's still a very tiny walnut according to this analogy, you know. It's an amazing analogy. Mahabrahma holds a walnut in his hand. He says, you know, your universe is so tiny, it's just like this walnut. This is me, you know. So imagine, the Buddhist imagination is amazing, you know. And I once saw this Greek mythology where Zeus is huge, you know. And all these Olympian gods, and they had this like a table with an Olympian video conferencing thing. And they could see the whole world, tiny little blue dot there, and they go near and start messing up people's lives. That's the Greek idea anyway. But in Buddhism, we don't accept that. Okay? So, yes, may all beings be well and happy. Meaning, without exception. Because we say, may all go to heaven except so and so. It's not complete. Yeah? Somebody just do that. That's not conditional love. The Buddha forgave even his worst enemy, Vedanā. I've not done research on Vedanā yet, whether he was really a bad man. But if he was really a bad man, he would have been thrown out of the Sangha, but he wasn't. He was there. And there is even a sutta which talks about Vedanā meditating and some great dharma. So it is possible that Vedanā was a good man all the way, just a big control freak, as you call him, very serious, very strict. The Buddha said, no need to be so strict. And he was not happy with it. And then the later storytellers, post-Buddha storytellers, turn him into a bad guy. See? We always need a bad guy so that the Buddha appears the great hero. Without the bad guys, you got no hero. So this is the later storyteller's idea. But I'm only saying this for visionary. The chapter on Vedanā is not in the chapter.
Sorry,
yeah, sure.
If we say this vehicle to enlightenment, this vehicle is what?
Okay, yana. It's another word for teaching.
They don't use the word enlightenment.
What do they use, yana?
The greater vehicle, small vehicle,
Well,
the concept of enlightenment.
Yeah, I'm sure they use many words because vehicle meaning teaching or rather accepted teachings. Of course, the Buddha didn't begin any yanas. The Buddha just said Dharma, you know. But after the Buddha, since all these teachers do not have the charisma and power and wisdom of the Buddha, they have to use new concepts to authenticate what they are saying. So this idea of yana is a very powerful way of talking. So now they talk about, you know, after the Buddha, they said the second turning, the Dharma, I think it was Nagarjuna, and then third turning from Mahasattva or somebody. Now fourth turning, Buddhism in the West. I thought that we often say the wheel needs only to be invented once. Once the wheel is invented, we don't need to invent the wheel anymore. So why are there so many turnings of the new wheel? So anyway, what they're saying is perhaps they are working on a Buddhism that fits their culture. But that's fine, it's still a cultural Buddhism. Ultimately, you've got to get into the stillness of the mind. Now, this is one of my sufferings, you know, uddhacca. It's okay to have uddhacca. Uddhacca is this unhappiness you have when you see people don't practice the Dharma. This is a suffering you all will have if you are serious about the Dharma. You will see why when people don't try hard to get out of their suffering, why people go on making the same mistakes, why don't people ask the right questions, why don't people go to the monks and learn to meditate rather than use them as a crime bomb or something like that. So it's normal to have this uddhacca. In fact, those great saints, when they meditate and deep Dharma, and they're on the way to arhathood, but they have this uddhacca, so they end up only with non-return. Once they let go of uddhacca, then arhats. This uddhacca actually, to me, is the bodhisattva feeling. You feel compassion for the world. So once you have that, you can never enter. So it's very interesting. Yeah? Because you feel for it, and that limits you from entering into full Dharma. So what I'm saying here is, yes, we may have this pain, but that's because we are concerned for them. So work on it. Do not give up, is it? So then this uddhacca will translate into joy. At least momentary joy. Okay, so we end here. Just nice. Unless there are any questions. Okay, I'll write it for you.
Just restlessness.
Yeah, there are two meanings to it. One is restlessness in terms of the fetters, the hindrances of it. The other one is actually it refers to the fetters in the sense that it prevents the non-returner to become an arhat. There is also restlessness in the sense that, when we're meditating, we think of the future, we want to get to action. That is a simple definition. There is also a higher spiritual unhappiness. We feel sad that, for example, not many people can study the suttas, have access to suttas, things like that. Yeah. There are 40 volumes of the Sutta Discovery. All these terms, explanations are there. I'm trying hard to index it, but so 40 volumes not easy. So anyway, what you should do is once you see an idea you like, note it in a notebook and write SD number so you can locate it next time. That's your index. Otherwise you can email me, I'll happily try to run. Okay, so looks like we still have a bit more to go, but it doesn't matter. The important thing is we have spent our time together happily. Any other questions before?
Actually, one last question.
Sure.
Just now we talk about the Parinimana of the Buddha. Before that, remember that he hinted to Ananda, if you ask the Buddha to stay, the Buddha can stay for another period of time.
Yeah.
So, I'm thinking, what's the context of this?
Yeah.
And let's say if the Buddha did stay, does it contribute the concept of impermanence
Yes.
on the body and stuff like that?
Alright. Now I have translated the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, SD9. You can look up the details of SD9. I did discuss, this is an enigmatic problem. I can't tell you I've satisfactorily answered this problem because it's one of those very difficult questions in Buddhism. Whether it is a real historical event or it's a story told by later Buddhist storytellers. It goes like this. It is said that the Buddha can, whoever has got the 4 Iddhipadas, in other words, able to attain jhana and so on, they can live for their lifespan or kappa vasesa. The problem is a translation of kappa vasesa. A lifespan and what remains of a lifespan. Or does it mean a lifespan and a little more? So this is, we're not sure how to translate. Second problem, kappa. What does kappa mean? Kappa has 2 meanings. One is a normal human lifespan. Another meaning is the lifespan of the universe. It simply means age. Lifespan, or rather lifespan is a better translation. Human lifespan, lifespan of the universe. But I don't think it is meaningful to translate as a universe, lifespan of the universe, that the Buddha can live as long as the universe lasts. It's a bit difficult to explain and accept the kind of idea. So the logical conclusion here therefore will be, what the Buddha is saying, he could live up to his whole lifespan, that is about 100 years, 120 years during his time, or a little more. So sometimes some translators have translated avasesa as a little more. Sesa means remains, avasesa. A little more. That's one possible translation. Another meaning is that he could live his full life up to 120 years. He passed at 80, he passed at 80. So in other words, he could stay on another 40 years if he wanted to. But since Ananda didn't say anything, why? The storytellers explain Mara appeared. Let's say you're the Buddha and talking to Mara appeared behind you, and then Ananda here see the Mara, suddenly I blurred, so I didn't hear what he was saying, right? But today Mara is a handphone, so then finally when Buddha has declared, okay, in that case I'm going to let go of my lifespan, that's it, I'm going to pass away at 80. And Ananda realized, oh dear, Mahavasa, please stay on. And the Buddha said, it's your fault. 16 times I've told you, but you didn't respond. You can imagine 16 times. So these are stories, so you don't have to take them seriously if you don't want to. The point is, sometimes even the closest student does not hear the teacher very well. That's the lesson plans. But despite that, when the Buddha passes away, all the four congregations are there, the great saints. The saints of the monks, the saints who are nuns, the saints who are laymen, saints who are laywomen. This is called the fourfold Sangha. They're all complete. Then the Buddha passes away. So there's no problem there. But like I said, this is an enigmatic story. Why did Buddha say it? I really don't know. There's one more very strange problem is when the Buddha passed away, he went through all the four jhanas, went to the former jhanas, came down again, and then went to jhana and then passed away. And I asked even Chandra, he said, nobody knows this one. So this is some history. So if you find the answer, let us know. Okay? Any other last minute? Okay, let's close with a short reflection. Today is the last day of the Chinese New Year, the full moon day of this month of February. Today we are coming at the end of our study of feelings. And next week we go on to study perception. This is part of our effort to understand the nature of the five aggregates. This is wonderful Dharma, the heart of the Dharma. Even our ability to sit here and listen to this Dharma is a wonderful result of our past karma. And also creating new good karma. By the power of such wonderful good karma, may our minds peacefully focus, maybe be happy and prosperous in this life and so wherever we go, may we bring joy and forgiveness to others. That they too come closer to the Dharma. Most importantly, by the power of all this good karma, our virtue of our faith in the three jewels, giving the precepts, practicing generosity and many other good deeds, may we attain spiritual liberation in this life itself, especially by attaining strength. At this point, let us send our loving kindness to all those people who have been kind to us, people we have known, especially people whom the Dharma have not touched. The Dharma may come to them and clear up their minds, bring happiness and kindness to them too. We all